All right.
Right. We are back.
Back at it 3 weeks later ish, as promised. So, uh, at the top, go to CoachTube, find us on CoachTube, uh, comment questions in the bottom of this video, and send money. So,
And if you don't want to listen to us, there's other people that we
yeah,
talk to.
click those too.
Yeah, those are good ones.
Is Bob our most popular so far?
Yeah, he
Okay,
is.
so go watch
Bob,
uh,
who is now registered for USA, right?
US USTF CCCCCCCA.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got the drop on that early, so I knew he was going to be there. He's been ducking me at those, so now he can't. I'm sitting front row center with
You're gonna
questions.
heck, you're gonna heckle Bob when he's up
Yeah,
there.
yeah. No, I'm just gonna ask really dumb questions. He's the most patient person I've ever met, and I really want to find the limit.
Yeah,
So,
that's a good. I agree. You should.
yeah.
You should ask questions that don't pertain to jumps at all.
Oh, the Hobbes Treaty on you know, social
It's
order and man's connection to the social contract. Where do you even stand on that?
uh, that would just bring up how good
This,
the Bears are doing this year.
yeah, I know you like the Socratic method, but Plato's got something to say. Can we start some beef
I
there?
bet he would have a very valid answer that could tie into track and field if he did that.
I know, yeah, I'm sure
Yeah,
he would.
yeah.
Okay,
All
Thomas
right,
Hobbes. Is
we
he
are
related to
already
Calvin
off
Hobbes?
topic. Awesome.
Yeah.
4 minutes in, off topic.
Okay. Yeah. So we're doing reviewing my first 3 weeks of training. Um, so how the first 3 weeks went, what went right, what went wrong. I do have some test results, and I have notes. They're probably not in a format that's like shareable here, but I took a lot of notes on what we did and what didn't work and what we needed to change. So I think we can dive in.
Yeah, let's get to it.
Where do we want to start?
Week one.
Perfect. Yes. All right. Do you want me to share? I'll share here.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead. Uh, we should kind of let's review a little bit of what you did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go there.
Okay.
So if you
So
haven't
we
watched
are.
the first one, go back and watch it because Dave goes super in depth about his first three program. We'll do a little quick review right now, but
Yeah. So my setup is well, we didn't train Monday on Labor Day. Um, we're in our second macro cycle. So this summer is my first macro cycle. It's pretty general. My jumpers don't get to anything beyond really double leg bounds, like broad jumps. We work up to repeated broad jumps and then just tons of skips. So
yeah,
that's what they have coming in. Handful of sprint days. And then I have four groups. So I have a long triple only group. Those are athletes who are only long jumpers, triple jumpers. I have a high jump group. So anyone who high jumps, even if you high jump and long jump, you train in the high jump group. I have a jump sprint group that is now up to four athletes. And those are all, with one exception, those are all long jump, short sprint only. And then I have my elite group, which is just one guy right now. So he had access to all of our facilities over the summer, so he was able to like use our wickets and use our tape measures and use our sand pits. So he logged everything, and so I know exactly where he's at, and that's why I'm training him a little bit differently, just because I'm very aware of where he is physically and kind of what he's been doing.
yeah.
Um,
Okay.
okay, so those are my groups. We did oh, I didn't test high jumpers. That was the one thing I didn't get done testing wise. So what we do is we go warm up unit. It's about 20 to 30 minutes, depending on the day of warming up. We move into unit one, which is usually prep. And that's typically acceleration oriented of some sort. So we'll do Like acceleration plus drill is you're gonna run out 15 meters, and then you're gonna do a drill back. It's just warming up stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
Unit 2 and Unit 3 is typically, oh, someone's looking at the workouts today. Unit 2 and Unit 3 is typically where like the meat of the workout exists. And that's typically our technical explorations and our true physical training. So week 1 was a lot of just acceleration stuff that, they've never done acceleration in drills. They've never done I assume they've never done an Excel ladder. We did 10-meter drills, which is just a series of 10-meter sprint-based drills. Drill plus Excel, that's high knees for 10 meters, then sprint out for 10 more. Just for me, that's a big one. I like it because it challenges your posture.
Yep.
Can you high knee with tall posture and then sprint out still in tall posture without like cranking your body forward? And we do straight leg runs and butt kicks for that too. So pretty basic stuff. We did do some coordination strength, some pedestal work. We have a handful of different cool downs that we'll do. So, and on day 1 or week 1, everyone did the same thing.
Yeah.
Little bit of exceptions was I pulled all their weightlifting out of the weight room and threw it on the field. So week 3 is probably the fun one. Week 2 was really just another iteration of that. We started our Excel complexes. So we did fast sled pushes, 2-point Excels, and then drop-in sprints. Our jump prep is just a series of drills where we move a little bit slower. We break out drills of the jumps. And I use that to introduce concepts. So triple jump, we do a lot of B walking, B skipping, B running work, where we're just talking about where I don't even talk about the extension of the foot as much as it's how do you get your foot from the ground up into the jump position, so we don't get like excessive backside. They take one day. So these highlighted days are general. They're not mandatory days. If they want to come to practice, they can. And then they have one extensive day on during the week, and then their Saturdays are always extensive.
Okay.
So we started with 20-second runs on the turf. We just run a big arc on the turf, minimize the impact. I want to keep them slow. It's really we talk about rhythm, we talk about posture. I have a handful of athletes who feel very grounded when they sprint. So we're slowing it down so they get 20 seconds to explore. How do I get off the ground? How do I stay tall?
Yeah. Cool.
Okay, so that's, and nothing really crazy in high jumps. We did some circle work. We did some complex work for bridges. We did a lot of depth drops to try to get everybody 20 reps a week. Some version of a depth drop or a depth jump. And then we try to get 80 multi-throws a week. So 4 days, we have our 1 day that's kind of an off day. We try to do 4 days of 20 reps, and that's underhand forward, underhand up, or underhand back.
Okay.
And then we do some partner med ball stuff, a little bit of iso strength. They try to get them 1 coordinative strength day in there every week. And right now, and that'll bump up to 2 once we get in season. And then one jump day, like 1 day that's like, yeah, we're jumping, and the next day is typically the recovery day. So I can pull up our test results really quick. They all tested.
Can you go through your tests? What are your tests?
Yeah, so right now I just did 2 different tests. So right before the season started, I gave them the option. Most of them took it to do a standing 5-bound test. So that looks like August 29th. Some of them did it, not everybody did. We were not in mandatory practices, NCAA, so no reporting me there for that. So they did a standing 5-bound, which is off 2 legs and then 4 switches. So the first jump off 2 legs is always the first bound. And that was based on kind of the conversation in the jumps world that says standing 5 bound is an indicator of what you can do in triple jump. So of course I'm excited about that. Um, that first day of testing was good. So they had a pretty good day. So we tested that in our third week then of official practice, which was September 17th. And then I also had my sprint group do 20-meter fly with a 20-meter run in. Um, they were interesting. There were only 3 who did it. So my results are actually pretty fascinating to me. Um, so yeah, but you can see, so yellow, those are all PRs
Yeah.
for standing 5 bound. And as much as I want to believe standing 5 bound is an indicator of triple jump potential, if we hit these numbers, I'm winning coach of the year. I mean, it's over. Like there's no because my top guy went 1568. Guys who tied for fifth went 1496.
Yeah.
Now, do I think they have the potential to jump that? Yeah, in perfect conditions with no hiccups in training, great energy, 3 years from now. Like
Yeah.
I became a little once these results came out, I'm like, all right, I don't know how valid this test is anymore.
Yeah. 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 And, it's like I used to crush these tests, but
Yeah,
when it came down to it, I never broke 15 meters in triple, and that's simply because I was too fast and didn't understand how to manage that speed. But at slow speeds, like on a standing bound, I could just kill it because I was just so much more powerful than all the other guys on the team.
yeah.
So
There's
it's
a, there's a big piece of this that's also an eye test. There are, I can tell you this guy at 1568. I do think, our goal is 1550 in 2 years.
yeah,
Um, and I think he has that potential. Um, but his standing 5 bound looked drastically different from the guy who went 1544. It was faster, it was more aggressive, and the
yeah,
guy who went 1544, not to take anything away from him, he very much floated through it. And that's not what it's going to look like when you leave a board
yeah,
with a run behind you. Um, so the interesting thing, so this is, I'm going to continue to do it because the problem I've had with testing is I can't do like a shot put throw year round. I don't
yeah,
have a facility I can do that regularly in. I don't have like lifting, I don't have a Kaiser rack. I don't have um, a jump mat. So I'm like, okay, well, I can do this test all year.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's kind of the big thing behind it. So now what we did is we went from part of our workout was a standing 5 bound. Now once a week, all of the triple jumpers, with one exception, all the triple jumpers are doing a 2-step 5 bound. So 2 steps into the board and 5 bounds out. Really, we're focused on takeoff mechanics. I've seen way too many guys, men specifically, who will sit with their hands in front of their body for 3, 4 steps before they get to the board.
yeah,
And we're just trying to break that habit. So in 2 steps, which means that when they set up for their 2 steps, I have their arms where they would be. And it's okay. Now we're going to go into what I call a quarter push that I stole from John Shepard. And we're going to push off the board and bound. It worked for one guy. So now he's on an 8-step 5 bound twice a week. And then he switched over. He's on 4-step right, right, left, left, once a week. And that's our triple jump. That's how we're training it right now.
yeah,
So the idea is like, cool, we can go to 2-step 5 bound, and after 3 weeks, we'll retest your standing 5 bound. Then we move back to a 4-step 5 bound. 3 weeks, we test your standing 5 bound, then move back to a 6. Just gradually putting speed on top of it. And then you get bound work outside of it. So, which brings me to my first, like what worked, what didn't work. Uh,
Let me ask you a caveat
yeah,
question just before that. So we're gonna go through what worked, what didn't work. Do you feel like these results comparative to other years are are has have these results been better than years prior? Because I want to be able to take out the idea that kids were deconditioned or detrained from not training in the summer. Let's just assume that a lot of kids didn't do full bore training in the summer, so they were detrained, and then they came back, and in 3 weeks, they're gotten back to where they normally would be.
Yeah, so this is my first year doing this. So
Okay.
I don't have longitudinal data on it, but I am very confident saying um my team's year prior would not put these numbers up.
Okay.
So,
Got it.
that's a mixture of I have men who came in capable of bounding really well. I have women who are capable of bounding really well. And kind of the teams that I had prior were sort of these ad hoc, hey, I think you can jump. Let's try it. And then, it's good enough to be a all conference jumper. And they're just not, they weren't all, some of them were, but most of my jumpers prior weren't true like jumpers. Um, Now I do have athletes who train to jump year round, when
Got
they
it.
were in high school. And
Yeah.
so I think those results are showing. I do think, I think it's interesting. So this 1089 at the bottom here,
Yeah.
that's a conference champion. Um, and she was my worst mark, but she had, a foot ankle injury in one of her tendons right at the end of the season. Just overuse. We didn't space things out properly, and she got really
Okay.
hot on the runway at the end of the year. And so it was like, cool, let's try to hit a national qualifier. And so you get to that end of the year run where it's okay, you have to jump the week before conference, you have to jump conference. Now we have 5 meets in 2 weeks where we're trying to chase a qualifier. Um, and we just overcooked her, which, it was the very end of the season. We were going into the summer. We kind of knew that was the risk, and we both agreed. And we got to a meet where she finally said, I'm done. I can't. My foot hurts too bad. I'm not going to
Yeah.
jump well. So she took the most time off. Um, so it's interesting to me. She also had a bad day, I think, but yeah, so she was probably the one who trained the least coming into the season because she was rehabbing an Achilles, not an Achilles, peroneal tendon, I think
Okay.
she had. So she was rehabbing that most of the summer. Um, and PTs on foot stuff it's calf raises and little band work.
Yeah.
And don't run, don't jump, don't skip. And like, cool, that's like your sport. Awesome.
Yeah. Exactly.
So yeah, so
We won't
so I
even
do
get into
think
that because
yeah,
that's
that's a whole different podcast.
yep.
Uh but I do think you're seeing the one person who I know for sure took the most time off um relative to everybody else, and she had the lowest result, and that would make sense. So yeah, so I don't have the longitudinal data, but I can tell you that my top guy, he did this test all summer because he had a pit to jump into. He had access to it. So he did the test and he reported his marks, and that he's it's almost 2 meters ahead of where he was when he
Awesome.
started the summer. So he's added every 10 days we did a form of a 5 pound test in his training, and they all got better. And then every 30 days, so 3 times over the summer, essentially, we did standing 5 pounds, true testing,
Yep.
and he added about a 3/4 of a meter every time. So, um, so it's getting better. I don't know what it means, but it's improving.
Yeah.
Um, and then I had a 20-meter fly, a 20-meter fly in. We used free lap for that. Um, I didn't time their full. So I made them run a 50. So I had a cone out at 50 meters out. And I didn't time the full run. I only timed the 20-meter zone.
Okay.
Uh, I was watching the sprinters use the thumb pad, and too many of them were not understanding how to use a thumb pad. So it was like thumb pad, go, and
Go.
then
Yeah.
start running. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
not even, so you could still get a good zone test. So you get whatever your zone is. But yeah, I'm like, their 60-meter was like 14 seconds because they pulled their thumb up and then started running.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
6 seconds later, you're like, what? I think you missed it. So I was like, we're jumpers. We don't really need to worry about that. So I had one guy do it. He went 204, 201. Um, he's interesting. He took a year off training or a year off track. I think he trained. I don't know how direct it was. He was doing something, but he went 204, then 201, and then I got a no mark on one of his runs. I think 201 was his third. We took about 10 minutes rest. I had a young lady who went 234, 245, 245. She, um, if she did a standing triple or standing 5 bound, she probably would be my lowest number again. She really went to a lot of concerts this summer, so she had that experience. The experience was not sprinting; it was music festivals,
Yeah.
which, you know, she lived her life, man. I'm happy for her. So, but she just long jumps.
Okay.
Um, so we're slowly trying to like just build speed behind her because it's just not there right now.
Yeah.
Um, and then my top gal who did this was interesting. The eye test really was fascinating, and I have the free lap on my phone, so I can't video while I do
Yeah.
it. And I really wish I had, because she went 214 on her first rep. She went 234 on her second rep, but I firmly believe if she went 100 meters off of those two reps, the second one would have been significantly faster.
Yeah.
So she went 20-meter run in, and I think she's one of the strongest pushers in Division Three. And she was not upright until probably halfway through the 20-meter zone. So she pushed for 30 meters.
Okay.
And then came upright and was flying through the end of it. I mean, it was remarkable to watch. Because she's one that we're working on, like, get off the ground. And when she got all the way up and got off the ground, she took one step for the last 10 meters and just flew through it. It was incredible.
Yeah.
And then she went 10 more meters to get to the 50 and barely touched the ground. And it was the first time she had pushed deep, got up, and then stayed off the ground.
Yeah.
So that was, I mean, so what I did then is I gave her a 30-meter run in and moved the 20-meter zone back 10 meters. And she went 217 on her third rep of the day. And again, she was still pushing and accelerating into the timing zone.
Yeah.
Which is great because our what we worked on all last year is she was the archetype of I want to win to 20. And she would come up and she would stop pushing early, and then she would sit grounded while she's sprinting, and everybody would catch, not everybody, but a lot of people would catch her. The elites of the country would catch her with 20 meters to go in a 100-meter dash,
Yeah.
because she stopped pushing so early because she needed to win to the 20. And so we talked about she's been really good about listening, and just I keep telling her, you need to push deeper, you need to keep going, you need to keep pushing, and she's being more patient. Now, what we'll find out is, can she do that with people next to her? But I'm hoping,
Yeah.
if we see good times in flies because she's still accelerating 30 meters into the fly, maybe she'll kind of internalize, oh, my fastest runs are coming off of my longest accelerations.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So that's
So
been
sorry to interrupt, but this sparked to something. I was listening to Randy Huntington. I can't remember what podcast he was talking. No, I'm sorry, it wasn't Randy Huntington. It was Dan John, actually.
no way.
Yeah. So
Ah,
so Dan John was talking about um running flies and adjusting run-ins based off of how he saw people mechanics. And this is like, this is a throws coach, strength conditioning coach. This is not a sprints coach. And it was really insightful to think about. He's working on 10 meter flies. And the only
Yeah.
thing he focused on progression wise was the acceleration zone. And he was timing for two reasons. And I think the second reason is like the biggest reason. So one, the first reason was the fact that early on the kids were unable to control a good acceleration into upright mechanics for a long enough period of time. So it's like it just looked bad when they had unlimited amount of space to run. The
Yeah.
second reason was every week was faster.
Yeah.
So their fly tens were faster, quote unquote, not because necessarily they were getting faster, was because he was going from a 20 to a 25 meter build in to a 30 meter build in to a 35 meter build in to a 40 meter build in. And with that, these kids were gradually extending their acceleration zone out.
Yeah.
So it was a really interesting concept that you can start to look at, especially with someone like that, where you can like, all right, well, we went from 10 to 20 to 30. She was able
Yeah.
to maintain it, hit that same fly time. Well, what does 35 look like? What does 40 look like?
Yeah.
And
And
then just,
that's the big question.
yeah,
Because we're trying to get there in the 60. We got to run
yeah,
7.7, 7.6 mid. And so we're trying to get there in the 60. In my male, my top guy, he's fast too. My top triple jumper, he's not a 60-meter runner because he pushes so far into the zone.
yeah,
He's still accelerating 45 meters in. Whether or not he should be, probably up for debate. He's tall. He's really tall.
yeah,
6'2" maybe, really tall compared to me. So he's 6'2" and super springy, and he's a muscle driver. Like he was driven through muscle, so he can push 40 meters in.
yeah,
Um, so he's a much better 100-meter runner than he is 60 runner, but she's a better 60 runner than she is 100 runner. And I've contested to her that that doesn't have to be the case because
yeah,
she cuts her acceleration so short. And so I wonder if Dan John's onto something, because the man is brilliant,
yeah,
by the way, of letting them extend that out a little bit, just at a little at a time. Because at a certain point, you got to figure out like, oh, I need to be upright in the zone. So let me just get as much behind that as I can. And you're just
yeah,
pressing, pressing, pressing. And so that's kind of the concept we're working on with her as well. Now my fast male that I tested, he's got a pretty atrocious block start. So we ran out of 2 point, we'd call it 2 point low hang, and he'll be slower if I put him in blocks.
yeah,
Uh, he's but his upright mechanics, he is what, like, take any Altus kilogram of what you want to see, and he's hitting all those positions. Like at foot touchdown, he has at least knees together, if not actively swinging the thigh through.
yeah,
So his upright, and I was like, that I can't teach that. Um, we can work on it, and we can try to build to it, and I can try to get you more active, but he just has it. It's just there. He
yeah,
asked for video breakdowns over the summer. He sent it to me. I'm like, oh, upright wise, that's a finished product. He just needs to learn how to go from 0 to top speed.
yeah, yeah,
So I do believe if I extended him out to 30, I don't know that we would see a faster 20 fly right now. But we've been slowly, we went 40, 50, 60 on Tuesday, and I had a cone out for him to excel to at about 25 meters. And I just watched and was trying to see, like, are we upright by 25? And then I kicked the cone down the track. All right, push to here for your 30. All right, push to here for your 60.
yeah,
Um, just to see where that broke, for him to be like, oh, I just can't push anymore. I don't have it in me, or maybe I don't have the patience, maybe I don't have the push, but yeah, so that was kind of how we did our flies. And I'm going to be fascinated to see, because we'll extend those out for the next one, uh, granting the weather's acceptable. Um, And then
How many
once we move,
cones do you have?
how many timers?
Yeah.
4.
I wonder if you don't extend it out and just put an extra 10 meters on the back end. So you have two 10-meter zones so that you can have some comparable data. So
That,
if it's
yeah,
a 20-meter building, you got your timing from 30 to 40 and then 40 to 50.
yeah. I could go 30 to 40 and 40 to 50 and 50 to 60.
Yeah. Because
Um,
now then you have you're tracking that all over time. You can see
yeah,
where that starts to change. Because theoretically, you would end up seeing a slower if they're doing it right, you'd end up seeing a
yeah.
slower first 10 and it'd be pushing out that max V later into that race.
No, this is fascinating. You actively tell them to try to make the last zone their fastest?
I would
Or do you let them
assume
figure it
so,
out?
right?
Yeah,
Or yeah, I don't know. I think that would be a test to see
yeah,
if if you play with the reps. Maybe the
yeah,
first rep is just go, see what that looks like. The second rep is let's make the second zone the fastest zone. What's their strategy to be able to do that? And then the
yeah,
third or fourth start to become a combination of the two or
yeah,
what you want to see. I think that'd be
yeah.
interesting data.
I could brower their first 30,
Yeah.
and then take a free lap on the 30 to 40, 40 to 50, 50 to 60.
Hmm.
Um, so then I could also time out their acceleration zone because my brower it's better for timing the start.
Yeah.
It's still a touchpad, but it's not the free lap thumb has to be on the
Yeah. Yeah.
time
Yeah.
button.
Yeah. I have that one
Uh,
too.
so yeah, I mean that'll be interesting. And then, are we gonna the real challenge for me then comes with I only have 40-ish. I can only really run a 40 indoors.
Hmm.
Um, so then do you only time 30 to 40 every time? Um, and how much does that matter and all that. But yeah, that'd be a really interesting way to do it. So maybe in my next timing day, I'll run them out to because I ran them out to 50. So I'll run them out to 60 on the next one, but I'll still time 30 to 60 with 10-meter zones. That'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Um,
That's cool. So what within your program do you think was most impactful on these results? Let's most impactful on the five step broad jump and then most impactful on sprints. So the two
yeah,
things that you're
so
looking at.
let's go to week 3 where no, week 2. So week 2. So we tested in week 3. And I'll honestly, I think probably the biggest things for them was for the standing 5 bounds, we did this complex of standing triple, 3 broad jump, standing 5 bound. So I trained it. I trained the actual jump.
Yeah.
Um, and the purpose behind that was I added standing 5 bound into their rip sets. So
Okay.
when they come out and jump, so like we're on this week now, they came out, they did rip for 3 reps of everything as part of their work into 2-step 5 bound, so part of their prep phase. And it's broad jump, 3 broad jump, standing triple, standing 5 bound.
Yeah.
So that's just part of their life now is a standing 5 bound. And whether the test is good or not, it doesn't matter because back here, week 2, when we did this complex, I found out most of my athletes don't know how to bound. Um, the I had 2 men who were like, cool, I'm not touching you. You are a bounder, you're set, you're good. Um, and then every other athlete in some phase of a bound had a problem. My freshmen especially uh, were jumping on their toes, so no heel contact whatsoever, um, but sitting way behind their shoulders when they're bounding. And then I had a couple older athletes who this irked me a bit. Um, really did not displace off two legs. Like you watch them take off of two legs for like a standing triple, and they may as well have just like walked their foot out in front of them
Yeah.
because they didn't go anywhere. So so I think like we just ran this complex, and then so this complex on Tuesday we came back and did a rip
Do you
complex for
think,
four.
sorry, do you think that was because they weren't coordinated enough to like understand or be patient enough when they came off the bilateral jump, like the broad jump to land, or was it they just didn't have enough power? Are they not powerful enough?
I think inside my group I think both existed. Um, knowing the people who couldn't do that. One of them doesn't train in the summer, and that's just a fact of life, and that's something we deal with. And so just doesn't have power. You know, we
Yeah.
don't start the season with the ability to be powerful. Now he's frustrating because he's the kid doesn't train, and you're just banging your head against the wall all season, and then come the end of indoor, the guy's the best long jumper on our team.
Yeah.
And it's obnoxious because I like can't be like, hey man, I need you to be better. And he's like, well, I just made finals in long and triple. Like, you have a really good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so that's one of those like there's times where I'm like, sometimes you gotta trust a kid to, he lives a stressful life and you gotta trust a kid to know what's best for him. Um, so it drives me up a wall, but yeah, he gets the job done. But yeah, he went nowhere. And then I do have some that were like, I think I had athletes who were seeing what was being done. Like, oh man, that was a big, big jump. And then coming off two legs had no patience.
Yeah.
We're just like, I got to get into this and go. Um, so I think it was both. And so I think sled complexes, I think Excel complexes helped a lot
Okay.
because we did fast sleds. So women had no weight on a prowler sled, men had 50 pounds on a prowler sled. Um, we only pushed 15 yards on the turf. And we just worked a lot of Excel. We worked a lot. We stayed true to our multi throws for the first 3 weeks. Those are an absolute nightmare right now, but we stayed true to them for the first 3 weeks, and you could see them figuring it out. But then I think complexing, and this was so Tuesday was heavy coaching. Tuesday was you're gonna do a rep. I'm videoing, we're stepping aside and I'm showing you like, hey, I want you to find this, I want you to feel this. So we had people going from my first goal was I want everyone on my jump squad to not contact the ground with the ball of foot first when they're jumping. Because all my freshmen did that
Yeah.
with one exception. So their brains exploded when I told them we land flat foot, or I would even like you to go heel toe.
Yeah.
And they were like, what? And I'm like, I know. Give me a 30-day free trial and try it. And if you get through that 30 days and you're like, no, this is stupid, then we'll go back to how you did.
Yeah.
Um, so that was goal number one, was learn how to put your foot on the ground. So I think we really got this jump complex that we did it. Um, we did rudiments on Thursday. We came
Okay.
back, we did rips on Friday. We did some coordinative strength where we did max V switches. And on those, I was really flat footing, and everything was associated to long jump. It was like you hit the ground like it's a long jump, punch down,
Yeah.
punch down, punch down. And I think it was just so you got one, two, jump prep is three, rudiments is four, rip is five, coordination strength is six. So you had in week two, you had six different opportunities for me to yell at you about putting your foot on the ground the right way.
Yeah.
Then week three, we came back. We did some 15-meter drills, which there's a little bit there. We did triple prep, which the whole point of that is, how is your foot contacting the ground? How are you leaving the ground? What is your posture like? It's a lot of walking stuff. It's a lot of slow skipping, baby bounding, and then they tested. So you got in week one, a handful of things, but it's a lot of learning. And then in week two, you got 6 different workouts where all I focused on was either if you were already contacting the ground correctly, posture, and where's your hip. If you weren't contacting the ground correctly, it's put your foot on the ground the right way.
Right.
And then on Tuesday, you come back and standing 5 bound, and it's like, all right, now retest. And all of them are flat footing or heel toeing. A couple of them got really good posture. But I think that was the biggest thing is they didn't even have to, because like you can see here, I had baby bounds for people who were really struggling with their bounding.
Yep.
So we didn't even do heavy bounding. It was just baby bounds just to learn how to do that. And I think just being capable of doing that led them to having access to their hips, having access to their glutes. A lot of them, even when we were doing 20-second runs, we were trying to like, how do we get access to your posterior chain?
Yep.
How do we get access to your glutes? And they walked away from a lot of their workouts with like, I have a butt pump right now from rudiments or from 20-second runs. It's like, I'm like, why? And they're like, I don't think I've ever used that muscle. I'm like, you're probably right.
Yeah.
So I think that was the biggest thing, was just their exposure to the context. Now in 3 weeks, is it going to be better? I hope, you know, um, but they know how to jump, they know how to bound, they know how to do the test. So I'm guessing we're going to see less of it. I mean, these are ridiculous. Like a kid put 92 centimeters, 94 centimeters,
Yeah.
1.3 meters,
Yeah.
in 3 weeks. I don't think we're going to see that again.
Well, now I
But
think this is all technical change, like their coordination, their understanding of context, foot placement, right? When you start to get better context, you're more efficient, you're smoother off the ground. So
yeah,
it's all that technical work that they're seeing the benefits of.
I think
Now you're
that,
going to start to apply like the physiological changes of actually being more powerful when you're coming off the
I,
ground.
yeah, and I think there's two other things that I've noticed this week, especially, that I think will play out, will be good indicators of getting better. One is we have 3 weeks of pretty decent bounding. Does everybody test in 3 weeks? Are they all healthy? So, and there's no indication right now that that's not going to happen. But I think one, that's the first test, is everybody healthy enough to test in 3 weeks? So 6 weeks into the season, can everybody do it again without
Yeah.
injury? Uh, and this week I've noticed it the most. So we're on the week of the 23rd. Um, so we moved just heavy sled pushes. I actually wasn't here for this workout. I was working at a marathon. Um, but here on these rips and these 5 bounds, I think the biggest change I've seen in the last 3 weeks is harmony between the upper limbs and lower limbs.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It was night and day. So I had video from the first week of training where you would have jumpers whose arms just don't move. They sit back. They stay back here for an entire cycle.
Yeah.
And they don't use their arm. And it's like, what are we doing here? And now everybody's arms are in harmony with what they're doing in their lower body. And it is leading to much better postures, which is leading to much better jumps. So I think that might be the thing that makes the difference next time. And then after that, it's just physical. Are we physically
Yeah.
getting,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
Absolutely.
your technical improvements only go so far. And then it's like, oh, well, we're done getting technically better. So like all the big low hanging fruit is gone. And now it's
Yeah.
just grind time.
And then once you grind it out, then you're gonna have to make more technical changes because they're more powerful and faster. It's just a
Yeah.
never ending cycle.
Yes.
Lining up
Yeah.
that cycle with championship season. That's
Well,
the
I even
that's the
I
bread and
even
butter.
I reached out to Bob. So this was my this was my big what did I change? The day I think it was the last day of the week prior to our first week of training, one of my guys pulled his hamstring. Like I've had now three hamstring injuries in 16 years of coaching.
Yeah.
Um, so this kid, he did it before the season started, but he's a guy that I recruited 2 years ago. And when I recruited him, he probably weighed 125, 130 pounds. Um, I think he's around 6 foot, 6'1". He spent a year at community college. We stayed in contact. He moves up here and we're training now. And I bet he weighs 170. And
Jeez.
it's I bet he's 7% body fat.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all muscle. The guy, he literally did not have a functioning weight room in his town. And then he went to a community college that had a big, beautiful weight room. And he loved it a lot. And so I called Bob about this because I'm like, oh man. And he's like, yeah, you have a kid now who hasn't done track for a year, but put on a ton of muscle.
Yeah.
His technical model is going to be so different now than it was when he was in high school.
Yeah.
It was like Bob just said, don't run him max anything,
Yeah.
and the kid's he's going to be fast, but you can watch his technical model is an absolute nightmare. The guy doesn't touch the ground when he jumps. He pops off of it and he gets so much displacement. It's insane. He had no coordination between his arms and legs.
Yeah.
He had no concept of full foot contacts. Um, and he's doing all of that with a Porsche motor in a Honda Fit frame,
Yeah.
you know, like,
Yeah.
so that was my first change was I didn't, I'm like, we're not doing max. This group is not doing max anything.
Yeah.
So we did max anything out speed wise. I only had my older people who I'm like, I have watched you for 2 weeks. We'll go max stuff.
Yeah.
Um, so now that we're almost out of time, I'm gonna I'm gonna break down what I changed. It was hot and I did not expect the like my 15-meter drill work, my Excel drill work, that gassed them really early. And I think because of the heat, because this week they're great. Um,
Yeah.
but the volume was too high for
Yeah.
prep. And so I ended up cutting early. I cut the end of almost every workout. Um, because we did too much too early in kind of prep stuff. So, but it
Yeah.
was 15-meter stuff, it was 20-meter stuff. So it's not like anybody's at risk, but with the heat and doing 3 to 5 sets of that, they were toasted. And then our quality work in units 2 and 3 was just gone.
Yeah.
So I cut a lot of the end of the workouts, and then moving forward, I dropped the volume for a lot of the starts of the workouts. So now they're in the weather's better, so they can do more. But I also get a lot of groans when they see fit like 15-meter drills, or no, we moved it up to 20-meter drills. Um, we had some 20-meter drills in here, and they were where did they go? Oh, Excel drill 20. And they were like, dude, that killed us last week. I'm like, well, it's like 20 degrees colder
Yeah.
this week.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think you're gonna be okay. And so now it's like, all right, we could probably jump up the volume really quickly, but because of their feelings about it, we're gonna inch it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Uh, and then we moved over to heavy sleds instead of lighter ones. But yeah, that was the biggest thing was I was getting kids who were just gassed, way too gassed at the end of the workout. Um, and we're doing circuits or we're doing core work, and I'm like, I'm not a softie, I don't think too much, but I also am like, man, doing a circuit completely wasted. It's just bad movement.
Yeah. No
And
point.
as much as I want the fitness and I want this, I think I cut all my skip for distances. I cut my takeoffs. It was just like, if you're just toasted from these drills, um, one, I don't think you can learn with a high heart rate. So can
Yeah.
I teach you what you need to know? And two, just I don't want these terrible movement patterns.
And it's early. It's early in the season. Is they're still
Yeah.
getting conditioned, and that's the thing. That's the whole part of this sport,
Yeah.
right? We had the same issue with when we started speed work with the cross country guys. Our warm up involved skipping, backwards running, and some rudiment hops.
Yeah.
And I would venture to say 30 to 40% of the kids couldn't get the workout done because either their calves in general were just not strong enough to handle skipping.
Yeah.
So it was like that was the workout. All right, that's the speed stuff we're doing today. We only can
Yeah.
handle, a few skips, a few backwards runs, some prime times, and some rudiments, and that's it. All right, come back next week. Let's do it again and again. And
Yeah.
I mean, it was 4 weeks before the entire team was able to handle full warm up and then start working into accelerations.
Yeah.
You know,
It's I think well, I kind of wonder, I wish I was able to watch them over the summers, and how quality I'd be curious to know, and maybe I should ask them this, but like how much rest were you putting in between like all your warm-up stuff? Because it's hot. And,
yeah,
and so and I got a lot of kids from the South and Southwest. So was it like, oh, well, we warmed up inside and then moved outside for the meat of the workout and came back inside? Um, I know Ricky was doing a drill. He would pull a bench over to where he was working out, like one of our soccer shelters that had shade. He would pull it
yeah,
over to where he was working out. This is brilliant. This is why this kid's smart, and that's why he's going somewhere. Um, he would do a drill, then he'd go sit in the shade for 3 to 5 minutes and go up and do his next drill and go sit in the shade. And I'm like, yeah, that's a good thing now. Bad habit,
yeah,
because when the temperatures drop, the last thing you want to do is be used to sitting on a cold bench. But I'm like, yeah, how much rest were we taking between all of our stuff?
yeah,
Now you have to go to class. So we gotta like hammer it out. Um, so yeah, so that was the biggest thing, was just my volumes were way too high. And then my high jumpers, I pulled them off the curves.
yeah,
We were doing circle drills and we were doing curve drills, and tried to start there, and I should not have. That was because I was not getting any intensity. I was getting I was getting just the drill pattern, which is good, and we need to learn the drill pattern. But we were doing like a skipping on a curve, and they were not leaving the earth at all.
yeah,
It was a tiny, it almost looked like an A skip. And I was like, this is not suiting our purpose at the moment. So I, down the road, I'm probably never going to put curve runs and curve drills and circle drills into early season stuff, um, because the intensity wasn't there.
yeah,
So those are my two big ones. It was just my volumes were too high, and we shouldn't have been on curves and circles early, for high jumpers. Um, and then not telling, I wasn't specific enough. My do I have my weight? I don't have my weight room up here. It only says on my weight room work to not go heavy on RDLs, to never strain, to never test. It like says like in three different places. Keep it very light, keep it extremely light. This is
yeah,
Don't go heavy here. But I only wrote it like 4 times and
yeah,
didn't slap them and say, do not go heavy on RDLs. And then they all went heavy on RDLs. And so I burned a full day because they're like, our hamstrings are sore. I'm like,
yeah,
what? Whoa, what happened? And they're like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
those RDLs. I'm like, well, what weight were you doing? Oh, I had the 65s out. I'm like,
Awesome.
what? That's not even close to what I told you to. Like, it says there 4 different times. Very
Yeah,
light, low intensity, facilitated stretching. They're
yeah.
like, oh, yeah, okay. Like,
Uh, well, on that note,
yeah.
in 3 weeks, let's revisit. Let's start looking at what that's gonna look like.
Yeah. It's gonna be fascinating. So I'm
Beautiful.
I'm interested myself to see. I think I don't even have their workouts right now. Look at that. Blank templates.
That's the
It's
idea.
homecoming week. I had to get through
Yeah,
homecoming. So,
All
all right,
right,
man.
fantastic. All right,
We'll,
then
we'll be back
back
to
at it
it.
3 weeks.
Yep.
All right,
All right. See you,
bye.
Nico.